The Prime Minister has been traversing both flood-ravaged states, announcing financial support for victims and committing to a huge repair bill. But where will the money come from? Well, late today I spoke to Julia Gillard in our Canberra studio. Prime Minister, thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
Now, while the floods are ongoing and the damage bill just keeps mounting, there have been reported estimates of up to $30 billion for Queensland, and then of course as the other states, the other areas. What's the latest estimates in regard to damage and lost production that you're working with?
We don't know what the damage bill is for rebuilding infrastructure yet, and we won't be able to know with clarity for some time. We do have to wait for flood waters to subside to see what's underneath. But this is a major economic crisis in impact from the floods. Everybody's talked about 1974 comparisons for the actual flood water. What we've got to remember is that in 1974, Queensland was a far smaller part of our national economy than it is now. Around 14% then, around 19% now. And Queensland contributes about 25% of our exports. So a flood crisis in Queensland has major economic impacts around the nation.
Even if no one is certain of the amount yet, and you do know, what everyone knows is that it is going to be huge and that the lion's share of that cost will be borne by the Commonwealth. Now, in light of that, what economic reason do you have for pushing on for a budget surplus for 2012-2013?
Well, put simply, the economic reason is our economy will be running at close to full capacity at that period of time. We are facing a big repair bill for Queensland, and we are facing economic consequences of the flood waters. To take, an example, Queensland supplies 80% of our coking coal. The coking coal that comes out of Australia, it exports $100 million of it a day, and 40 mines around about haven't been able to work during the floods. So, yes, this is having an impact, but we've got to remember our economy is strong with a large pipeline of investment coming through. That means by 2012-13, our economy will be running hot, and when your economy's running hot, that's the right time to be having a budget surplus and saving for the future.
But, Prime Minister, business, financial and union leaders are now raising doubts about sticking to the budget surplus timetable, and a couple I spoke to earlier today said that if you do hold steadfastly to that timetable, it's for political, not any good economic reasons. So, therefore, why not reconsider it?
It is for a good economic reason, and that's why it's the right way to have our budget position given where the economy will be at that time. Let's remember, strong economy. We came out of the global financial crisis strong. An economy that was running or tending to run close to full capacity. That the right thing to be doing in those circumstances is to have a budget surplus. That's why we had determined that we would bring the budget to surplus in 2012-13.
But if economists and business leaders, Prime Minister, are saying, look, we don't have to stick to this. This can roll over. We don't have to steadfastly stick to this timetable. Then surely they'd be saying that with some basis.
Well, I've got to respectfully disagree. As Prime Minister, what I'm saying to the nation is we will rebuild Queensland and we will bring the budget to surplus in 2012-13 because that's what our economy will require. Now, that does mean we face a number of tough choices, and I am working on making those tough choices right now.
Let's talk about a couple of those potential tough choices. Your government, until now, hasn't ruled out a flood levy. Will you rule it out now?
This is going to require some difficult decisions. There will be spending cutbacks and there may also be a levy. I am working on those decisions now, and when I'm able to, I will announce them at the appropriate time. We obviously have more work to do. We don't have the total damage bill yet. But I want to be very blunt with Australians. We have a lot of flood damage to repair in Queensland. There will be some economic effects on GDP growth, a short-term effect on inflation with food prices and the like. but our economy is strong and we will get through this by pulling together the same way we got through the global financial crisis, by pulling together.
Now, the economist Saul Eslake believes before looking at a levy at more taxes that government spending should be seriously reviewed, the cutbacks, and reining in certain areas, ranging from the pharmaceutical benefit scheme to the first homeowners grant. Now, do you know yet what areas you will be looking at, and will you, in priority, cut back before you look at a levy or a tax?
There will certainly be spending cutbacks. I'm not in a position tonight to detail to you the areas. I am working on that now, working of course with Treasurer Wayne Swan and my federal colleagues on those decisions. But there will be spending cutbacks and there may also be a levy.
So maybe both?
Well, I've put it as plainly as I possibly can. There will be spending cutbacks and there may also be a levy. We are obviously working on those decisions now as we work with our Queensland colleagues to clarify the bill for infrastructure rebuilding. At the same time, of course, we're seeing floodwaters in Victoria and they're right in the midst of battling those floodwaters, and there may well be infrastructure rebuilding that needs to be done after those floodwaters recede.
Prime Minister, in terms of funding for the rebuilding, what about Tony Abbott's idea of scrapping the national broadband network and using some of that money?
I've seen this suggested, and this is a misunderstanding of the way in which the National Broadband Network is being financed. The National Broadband Network is an investment which will end up earning interest money effectively for taxpayers. We've got to be able to deal with the consequences of floods as well as do the big economic reforms necessary for this nation's future, and building the infrastructure we need for the future is part of that necessary economic reform.
Prime Minister, a major issue that has arisen out of these floods is that of insurance. Frustration is deepening and widening among people who thought they had flood cover and evidently don't. Just how committed are you to ensuring that there is a clearer, standardised definition of flood in policies without it being used as a reason to hike premiums?
My colleague Wayne Swan and Assistant Treasurer Bill Shorten have been meeting with the insurance industry. They've been doing that from the point of view of prevailing upon them to show the same spirit of generosity in this flood crisis as Australians have shown to each other. So we're certainly putting that message to the insurance industry. And yes, this issue has been raised about standardising what it means to be flooded, hit by flood waters. So that's something that the government is considering. But for people who are in this circumstance right now, obviously we do want to send a message to the insurance industry to be on the side of generosity. On this occasion, I think Australians expect that.
Prime Minister Julia Gillard, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.